The first time I saw the road to Lares, it looked like a zipper torn open in the side of the Andes. Hairpins hung over empty air, a thin wall of stones pretending to keep buses from slipping into the valley. My brother Matteo loved that feeling, the edge, the drop, the dare you give the mountain and hope it looks away. I drove, because he trusted me to keep us from dying, and because the rental agency in Cusco only believed a teacher would return the car intact. We weren't tourists that week. We came because our mother's childhood friend, Señora Pilar, had called after 20 years of silence. "They want the land," she said, voice shaking through a prepaid signal. "They say the dam will save the valley, but they want the lake, and what's under it." She had mentioned names that meant little to us in Lima: municipal officers, a French engineering firm, a contractor with cousins in Congress. Then her neighbor's son vanished after filming trucks at night. No one filed a report. Matteo rolled the window down and whistled at the way the light cut the peaks into hungry teeth. "You sure your editor won't kill you for bringing me?" he asked. "I don't work for the paper," I said. "I teach. I only write letters no one reads." "Then why's the recorder on the dash?" Because I'd been recording Pilar's calls, her pauses when a moto-taxi groaned past her door, the way she whispered the word buceadores, divers, as if breathing it could make them appear. Because the dam would flood a stretch of high valley where our mother once braided her hair with river aloe, and I wanted to hear how people spoke before official documents replaced their names. We reached the village at noon. Dogs slept like dropped ropes under doors. A man with a shovel leaned against a green wall painted with old campaign slogans. The lake sat above the houses on a lip of grass, as dark as oil, with thin threads of irrigation running downhill into terraces. I cut the engine. Matteo rubbed his arms, though the sun was warm. Pilar opened her door before I could knock. She was smaller than I remembered, but her voice had the iron bar still inside. She hugged us both and fed us quinoa soup, the kind heavy enough to hold a spoon upright. When I asked about the lake, she put her bowl down and folded a napkin in half, then half again. "They took the boy," she said. "Reuben. His mother says he's with cousins in Calca, but she trembles when she says it. The night trucks go to the shore by the old pier. They say they're measuring depth. I hear something else. I hear a hum in the water. From turbines?" Matteo asked. "There is no dam yet. Only machines on paper." After lunch, Pilar led us along a footpath to the lake. A single boat lay chained to a ring set into a boulder. The chain had a new padlock. In the mud, I saw tire tracks and boot prints that didn't match sandaled feet. Matteo crouched and tapped a black scratch on the rock. "Paint from a bumper," he said. "Not a farmer's truck, either." A shout floated from below. Two men in orange vests stood near the terraces, hands on their hips, looking up at us. The smaller one lifted a phone. Pilar squeezed my wrist. "They photograph everyone," she said, voice thin. "And then the signal vanishes mysteriously afterward." We turned away as clouds gathered. That evening, the village held a meeting in the schoolhouse. Multiplication tables flanked the chalkboard, and a poster of the Amazon curled at the corners. We sat on benches while the alcalde spoke, a small man with a careful mustache. He said the dam had studies, that compensation would be fair, that progress meant lights that didn't fail in storms. People listened. They always do when someone promises grid lines and cash. I raised my hand. Who funds the work at the lake? Who authorized night operations? The alcalde spread his hands. Measurements are normal. Engineers prefer the lake quiet. What about Reuben? A ripple moved through the room. A woman pressed her lips together. The alcalde looked at his boots. The boy likes Cusco, he said. He goes often. He will return. Outside, a man in an orange vest intercepted us. Bullpen shoulders, jaw like a mallet. You're recording, he said, nodding at my bag. Turn it off. There are rules. It's just a phone, I said. I'm a teacher visiting family. Rules don't change with your job, he said. And the mountain has rules too. Mateo stepped closer. What does that mean? It means you shouldn't be near the water at night. Slopes give way. The wind flips boats. He held my gaze a moment too long, then moved aside to let kids run past into the dark. Back at Pilar's, the power died at 9. Wind nosed at the eaves. I sat by the window with my notebook and waited for the quiet to settle. The village makes its own sounds, dogs ticking in sleep, a pot lid dancing once on the stove. Beneath it rose a different tone, low and steady, like a freezer humming in an empty kitchen. Mateo pressed his ear to the glass. "You hear that?" he asked. "It's not wind." He grabbed his jacket. I followed with a headlamp and the maglite Pilar kept in a tin by the door. We climbed the path. The lake had collected a skin of cold. The chain on the boat gleamed. We followed the shore toward the pier, stepping around puddles that held small moons. At the pier, someone had bolted a box to the planks. A cable trailed from it into the water. The box hummed. Mateo put his palm on the wood. "It's vibrating," he said. "Like a generator, but no exhaust." A label was burned into the lid. "Hydroacoustic Survey Unit," I read. "Private property." "Sonar," he said. "Mapping depth." I traced the cable with my light until the beam struck a float 20 meters out. Something bumped it from below. The float twitched, then steadied. Gravel crunched behind us. We killed the light. Voices came along the path. Readings spike at night. Colder layers move. Boots thudded on the planks. We slid beneath the pier, bellies to damp beams, and felt the lake press a colder breath across our faces. The men unlocked the box. The hum deepened, then quickened, a heartbeat going uphill. Words became numbers. 60 meters, 75, drop off near the western lip. One man threw a coil of rope. Metal clinked against the float. The cable went taut. Very softly, we heard knocking from under the water. 3 taps far out in the middle, patient and deliberate, as if someone trusted we would still be there to reply. Mateo's fingers found mine in the dark. We held our breath. 3 taps again, slower, then silence, then a hiss like gravel pouring through a pipe. The men swore. One shut the unit off. Our ears rang with the hum. In the morning, we visited Reuben's mother. She sold bread from her doorway, loaves dark with barley and shaped like ears. Her hands were flour to the wrists. I described the box at the pier, the float, the knocking, the silence when it stopped. She studied Mateo, gauging whether he lied for sport. "He's not in Cusco," she said. "He never goes without his hat. It's hanging there." A faded red cap from a soccer camp in Urubamba sat on a nail above the broom. He filmed the trucks. He sent a voice note, then deleted it. I saw the notification. He said he heard engines in the lake, like tractors underground. "Old mines?" Mateo asked. "Under the lake?" I said. She shrugged. "The elders say a tunnel runs from the opposite slope. Men cut it long ago to reach a vein. It flooded in a storm. My grandfather fished tools from the reeds, hammers with rust like moss." She handed us each a loaf and a look. "You two don't like being told where not to go." By afternoon, rumors thickened. Someone's cousin saw a raft at midnight. Someone else heard a scream that turned into a hawk. The men in vests loitered near the store, never far from their motorcycles. One wore a jacket with a stitched patch. Apumar, a contractor I'd read about in a corruption piece. When he caught me staring, he smiled without warmth and lifted a finger to his lips. We hiked around the lake to the far slope. The path narrowed to a spine of sliding gravel. On the western lip, the water turned abruptly, impossibly blue. Matteo tossed a pebble and waited. It clicked as it fell, as if striking hidden steps. "There," he said, pointing where reeds made a pale ruffle. Boards lay sunk at an angle. Beneath them, a concrete rim curved under the surface. We waded to our shins. The cold bit like teeth. The boards were lashed with black cable ties. I slid my hand under and felt a metal hatch. The ties were new. A motorcycle coughed on the path above us. "Hola!" A voice called, cheerful and empty. "Careful. The drop is sudden." We turned. The goalie-shouldered man from the meeting straddled a dirt bike and grinned. "You two travel a lot for teachers." "We hike," Matteo said. "We like water." His grin thinned. "Then you'll like the rain. It comes fast. Rocks move. Tourists get lost. Phones break." He revved and rode away, spraying pebbles. Back at Pilar's, the car door was ajar. The glove compartment hung open. Our maps lay on the seat. In the dust on the windshield, someone had drawn 3 dots in a row. Matteo swore. Pilar shut the door with her hip, jaw set. "I told you," she said. "They photograph. They also search." We decided to leave that night, drive to Calca, and send what we had to my friend at a radio station. At dusk, the hum returned, lower than before, and with it faint taps, like someone assembling a patient code. Matteo stared at the ceiling. On the road down, fog rose from the ravine. Headlights smeared and came back weaker. We rounded a hairpin and found a pickup blocking the lane, hazard lights blinking like tired eyes. A man waved for help. When I braked, Matteo touched my shoulder hard. "No," he said. "Reverse." 2 silhouettes stood from the ditch. Another stepped from behind the pickup. The goalie-shouldered man lifted a tire iron and walked toward my window as if approaching a skittish horse. Slowly. I slammed into reverse. The pickup lunged, headlights flooding the cabin. Matteo yanked the handbrake. The sedan slewed and pointed uphill. I floored it. Gravel hissed. A rock bounced past the bumper and vanished without a sound. They followed for 2 curves, then stopped. In the mirror, the goalie-shouldered man lifted his phone, filming our taillights for later. We left the car at the plaza and ran the footpath to the lake. At the pier, the hydroacoustic box hummed. The planks trembled. The float twitched. "We're turning it off," Matteo shouted toward the dark western lip. The padlock held until he levered it with the mag light. The hasp gave. Inside, a neat panel. A motorcycle backfired on the path. "Now," he said. I threw the main breaker. The hum died. The night filled the space it left. We waited. The pylons ticked. From far out came 3 taps, slow, insistent. "Reuben, if that's you." 2 taps. Matteo shouted. A long pause. 2 taps. We pried boards, cut cable ties, found a round hatch. Air leaked from the crack, cold and metallic. Matteo pressed his ear. "Voices," he whispered. "Or water pretending." A beam rolled across us. The goalie-shouldered man jogged down the pier, tire iron in hand. "If you open that, the pressure," he began, lunging. Matteo met him. Boots skidded. I swung the flashlight, enough to change one step. He slipped, caught himself, and laughed once. "Do it," he said. "See what comes out." "Move," Pilar said from the shore. She arrived with 3 men, ropes over their shoulders. They tied lines to the cleats and handed me an end. "If water rushes, you hold." We cracked the hatch. A hiss came first, then a wet cough from the hill's throat. The lake didn't explode. It exhaled. Gravel rattled. The smell rose, iron and old wood, and then a human breath, ragged. Hands thumped from below. We pulled. A boy's face appeared, grey with mud, eyes huge. 2 smaller kids clung behind him. Reuben crawled onto the pier and clutched my sleeve. 3 days, he said. Air at the top. We heard a machine. We tapped. Then it turned off. We hauled the others up, wrapped them in coats, and took them to the schoolhouse. The men in vests watched without stepping closer, like people observing weather. Someone called the police. Sirens climbed the road. Pilar hugged Reuben so hard he yelped, then cried, then laughed, hiccuping in the same breath. The goalie-shouldered man sat on the planks with his hands behind his head, while 2 farmers tied his wrists with blue twine. He watched the lake, not us, as if awaiting an answer to his question. Days later in Cusco, a colonel explained things to a camera. Unauthorized surveys, illegal tunneling under a future reservoir, subcontractors protecting claims. An investigation. Suspensions. A pause at children. My recorder held statements, serial numbers, the Apumar patch, a plate number. The twist didn't live on television. It lived in my ear. In the hotel at night, with traffic rustling like paper, I replayed the pier track. After we throw the breaker, 3 taps, our shouting, 2 taps, rope. After we leave, when I set the phone on the plank to cinch a knot, there's a gap. In that quiet, far out, something knocks again, 3 times, at a distance that swallows seconds. 3 dots fit on a windshield. They fit at the end of a sentence. They can mean wait, or it's only air tasting old wood, a shaft breathing. Either way, I still hear them when the room goes quiet.